very first thought that crossed your mind when you got the invitation to give a TED talk? And was it ever something you imagined yourself doing where it was so surreal when you got that invitation?
Oh my goodness! You actually stole my word because it was surreal, almost surreal to the point where I thought it was a scam. I legit looked at my email from top to bottom, looked at the persons, the email addresses. I looked at the bottom of the email because it was shock and awe and surreal. And I think I felt that way because TED content and TEDx content is consumed by millions of people all over the world every single day. It is said that their website gets more hits than Disney World.
Yep.
So when you understand that this is a source of information and knowledge and insight and entertainment and challenge and thought-provoking speeches, you see other people on the stages, but you never ever see yourself. And this is even after people have said, you could go do a TED talk or a TEDx talk, and you kind of go, yeah, you're crazy. But finally, you get that invitation, and you at first ask, why me?
Yeah.
But then I start to ask myself, why not me?
And on a scale from 1 to 10, how intimidating was this? Because you have so much
Oh my God.
experience presenting. I mean, you've been presenting since you came out of the womb. You were dancing. Your different capacities throughout your whole school life into Miss Jamaica World, into everything that you're doing now. How intimidating was this?
It absolutely was intimidating. I mean, at some point in time, because again, this comes up, and because I've been an avid watcher, you understand that this is a well curated content, right?
Yeah.
So it comes down to time, packing a punch, making sure that you are maximizing on every second, that there is impact, that there is this one idea that is worth spreading, and the fact that you are now in a position to challenge, people's thoughts or ideas about a particular topic. Oh, hell yes. Yeah. This was intimidating.
Yeah.
Because we tend to underestimate, and I've always said to people, no matter how great you think you are, you always need to be open to learning how to get better.
Yes.
There is no ceiling, there is no cap. And even though it was intimidating, I'm grateful for the learning opportunity, because what it really teaches you, and TED and TEDx teaches you, is that less is more.
Yep.
So whether you're a great public speaker and maybe you can go and deliver a lovely speech in 45 minutes to an hour, and culturally the longer someone speaks, it's the greater it is. For them, it's like, no, you should be able, if you really are great at what you do, you should be able to simplify your message, get it across to your audience, and do the job in less than 18 minutes.
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, can I really do this? So it was challenging. It moved from intimidating, and then it became challenging, then it became doable, and then challenging, and then, you know what, I'm just going to put my foot in it.
Yeah. So then it just became an adventure.
Indeed.
Sweet.
It absolutely did. And what you will learn in the process is that you are capable of doing so much more when you are intentional.
Yes.
So when I finally got away from the hustle and bustle of work and motherhood, and I would have my quiet times, I really was able to edit. Terry, is this necessary? Is this line necessary? Can we use a different word? Maybe we need to move this paragraph to the top and end with this paragraph. It allowed me to sit down and to be intentional and to learn the art of editing self, even as a great speaker, which I appreciated.
And what was that preparation process like? Like, I've heard of people who would have literally spent hours rehearsing You know, how was it for you? And did you take it from that approach, or was it a mixture of that with a little bit of vulnerability and a little bit of, let me just share from the core a little bit? How was that?
Beautiful question. Well, first of all, what was most challenging to me was the fact that the committee requires you to submit a draft. You know, they have to ensure that whatever they're putting out from their speakers is up to the standard, right?
Yeah.
So they don't want any surprises. You have to show them a draft by a certain time. Then you have to show them another draft. You know, they have to see how your speech is coming along. And what was most challenging for me is the fact that I have never written a script. I'm a free thinking speaker.
Yeah.
You give me a topic, I go on a stage, and I deliver on that topic. And I deliver on the topic based on the time that you have given me. So this required me to sit down and not feel a room or see people's faces and to be able to edit while I speak, which is what I do naturally. I now had to advance all of my thoughts, which for me was like, but I may not feel this way next week.
Yeah.
You know, I may not feel like this in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that process to me, because of the kind of speaker I am naturally, that was hard. But what I started to do was I started to ask my question, which goes back to what the whole mantra is, you know, ideas worth spreading. Come down to this one idea. I asked myself, what is the one thing you'd want people to walk away from, you know, or what is their biggest takeaway? And I took that one idea, and then instead of trying to rehearse and make it this big production, I treated it very simply. How have you applied it to your life?
Yeah.
What are the examples that you can put in there so it doesn't seem forced?
Yeah.
And then what kind of statistics will back up what it is you're seeing?
Yeah.
So I moved from the core outward, and I didn't do any rehearsals leading up to it, you know. I did my drafts. They asked for us to do a video so that they could just get an idea of the time of the speech.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any time to do rehearsals. I didn't even make it to the TEDx rehearsals.
Wow. So
which was I think 2 days before.
So how much time did you have between invitation and presentation?
Oh my gosh. We got invited in May, and our delivery was done September the 25th, 2021. So you think you have all this time, but what you don't realize is that this is something else that has been added to your daily life, right? Your routine.
And it's something big.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's not something you can
massive.
tuck away. And so at times I felt like a delinquent. At times I had to send emails saying to the team, I know my draft was due. Could you just give me 3 more days, you know? And I'm sorry for being a delinquent, but to be very honest with you, the team understood. They were extremely flexible. They were extremely understanding in that matter.
Yeah.
So we had the months between May and September, but it just felt, it got more urgent as the time gets closer.
Yeah. So let's jump into the meat of the matter. The surprise conversation. You know, because normally people would imagine you'd be asked to talk about you being this multi-potentialite who, you know, doing all these things, but the conversation was so intimate. You know, it was almost as intimate as it gets. Let's talk a little bit about how deep you had to go, you know, from your grandma giving you this pink pouch with some things in it that she never even tell you. It's like, you know, you must have felt like Pandora opening this box. You know, to motherhood and growing to understand different people's experiences and realizing you can appreciate people who, and even love people who you probably didn't
are
imagine
different.
yourself loving as much as you actually do now. Let's talk about the conversation you had and how deep you had to dig
Yeah.
to have this conversation and share it.
Yeah, it was deep and it was vulnerable, and I think it was introspective. I think that's the word that I would use. And I think my parenting style is introspective. I'm always mixing traditional parenting because I believe it has its place. I don't think I would be this person unless I was able to take what the foundation of traditional parenting between my mom and my grandma gave me as a foundation and building upon it.
Yeah.
And so for me, when they're asking me, talk about how we can raise children holistically, that's a big topic. You could pick on 3 million qualities or 3 million elements or components that we need to pull out and say, hey, this is an area that we need to focus on. But what I decided to do was just to be honest. I approached it from, why do you parent Naima the way you do? Why is it that you approach certain conversations with her differently? And it's pulling on my personal experiences. It's pulling on experiences that I've had as a youngster, that I've had as a young adult, that I've had as a professional, being exposed, being in different spaces, partnering with various organizations that cater to special needs communities. What that helped me to do was to open up my understanding of how our language and actions affect people. Yeah. And I just said to myself, at the end of the day, I don't want my daughter to just be a great Jamaican citizen. I don't want her to just be a great West Indian. I want her to be a great global citizen. Yeah. So what does that mean? And what are the things that I am now challenging? And yeah, it means that I would have to unearth social and cultural issues, things that we know exist, that are a part of our cycles, that are uncomfortable truths that we don't like to confront, and we just kind of say, well, this is how it's always been, and we're just gonna keep on at it. But we're seeing that it's not getting better. So for me, it was confronting my own experiences, confronting my own biases, looking at how much I have grown as an individual, and now to use that influence as a mother. It was an absolutely wonderful session of vulnerability and self-discovery, and I had to share that for my message, I think, to be felt in the way I wanted it to feel.
So, talking about that, because you're just a few years older than me, so I know what your experience
you're too kind.
Could have been like. I mean, we grew up in the 90s.
Oh no, baby. I grew up in the 80s, but thanks.
You're too lie.
I am an 80s baby. That's why I said you're too kind. I am an 82 baby.
Oh, okay. 82. Not too far off. Not too far off. So we know what our experience was like. But I always wonder, what is it like raising a child in this social space?
Scary.
With social media, the pressures that come with that. I mean, as adults, we know the pressure that comes with social media. I can't begin to imagine what it's like for kids growing up. How do you protect Naima from some of these unbelievably unimaginable effects of
right? I mean,
occupy?
That's a fantastic question. I think if you speak to most parents, they'll tell you it's scary. You don't ever, as a parent, the question is always, when do we broach certain subject matter or conversations with our children? And we want to be able to be the ones in control of when those conversations happen, right? In the ideal world. And back in the day, it was always your friend or someone who would say something that you had no idea about, and that's how you learned. Yep. With social media, though, everything is just there. Even in ads, even if they're not necessarily going on to watch a particular kind of content, ads
Yep.
that could be anything are popping up in front of them. And so for me, what I've kind of done in terms of protecting Naima from social media is to not ban her from social media. I don't say social media is the devil, so you can't engage on it. I've sat down and had very open conversations about the risks and the dangers of social media. I've sat down and I've had conversations about her responsibility and accountability. And I know people might be saying, but she's just 9. They understand everything. They understand social media better than us. So for me, I'm not going to wait for her to be in impending danger to then say, oh, by the way, this is what you should have done.
Yep.
So I make it very clear, these are the rules, but you're going to have to understand why these rules are like this.
Yeah.
This is what is appropriate content. This is what is not. This is the amount of time you'll be allowed to be on your devices engaging with social media. And I set my parameters, but I don't simply say, you can't do this, and I leave it there. I explain to her, hey, it's not safe for you to do so and so because this is what has happened to children who've done this.
Yeah.
So I make it very clear for her to understand. And what I've found is by having open conversations with her and creating that space that is very comfortable, she asks questions.
Yes.
Mom, I saw this and what does this mean? Okay, baby, that actually isn't appropriate because that means, oh, okay. The next time she sees content even remotely similar, she hops out because she has already flagged it as inappropriate. So for me, tying them down, or I guess I could tell you I use parental controls, but I don't. I don't use parental controls.
Yeah.
What she understands is you have the privilege, and I trust you, and we're gonna have these conversations. But if you violate that trust, then you lose your privilege. And she doesn't want to lose the privilege.
Of course not. So, these kids nowadays have so much information at the literally at their fingertips. What are some of the most random and surprising and probably mature questions that Naima would have asked you that she pulled out of her Pandora's box, and you're like, how am I going to have this conversation?
Oh man!
And how do you walk her through some of these things? You can give me one example.
Oh wow! Well, I did share the one in the TEDx talk where she asked me why is it called a tampon and not a tampon, because tampons go in and not out.
Yeah.
People thought that was just mind blowing because I'm 39 years old and I've never thought about that.
That either.
Oh, for sure. But from body to boyfriends to love to divorce to respect. What does respect look like? To crying, the vulnerability in crying, to bullying, to sharing. Even something as simple as sharing, which was also a part of TEDx. Sometimes they aren't even hard questions. Sometimes it's more like, these are things that we never really thought of because we were just told to follow instructions.
Yeah.
But even the question of, do I have to share everything all the time? It's a simple but profound question.
Yeah.
We've always had to share. We were told, you don't get a choice in this. You have to share. But then we realize as we get older, we become people pleasers and we don't know how to say no.
Yep.
And so those simple yet profound questions give me the opportunity to now have that conversation about consent and autonomy. So even inappropriate touching, what constitutes that? And it's not just boys or males, but females can do it as well. It's having this balanced conversation. Absolutely. To the number one question, would I have another child? Oh my God, that one I oh my God. That's the one I skate.
So from from people in your age group who have children around the same age as Naima, and based on conversations you'd have had with them, do you think enough parents have that parenting style that even I wish I had, where my parents like kept it real to that extent?
Yeah, no. I mean, I do believe that you have some parents, and I think things are changing, but it is very hard to challenge socio-cultural habits and beliefs that are like entrenched in our DNA.
Yeah.
You know, I, for example, that same conversation that I had with Naima about menstruation, it's just a normal conversation, and she's confident, she's asking questions, because I've never injected the conversation about her body and menstruation with guilt or shame. And so I remember it was women, big women, old women, who said, "Oh, you're having this conversation with your daughter? Like, why would you have it with her at such a young age?" And then I'm asking, so when do you have it with her?
Exactly.
When she starts to menstruate early at maybe age 8, and she's thinking she's dying.
Exactly. And then because she thinks she's dying, she won't come and tell you.
Exactly. But what you need to understand, Tina, is that we still have a lot of parents who rely on church and communities and schools to have those kinds of conversations with children, because they don't know how to.
Yep.
Because we've all been meant to feel ashamed of our bodies.
Yeah.
So we basically carry this cycle on and on. So for my friends, when they kind of found out that Naima and I have these conversations, a lot of them felt empowered now that they could start having it with their daughters. That they can start saying, "Hey, you know, mommy has this thing every month, and it's totally natural and it's okay." And it started opening conversations. And for those who are still a little bit uncomfortable, they use my videos. They show, like, there's a mother who told me that she used my video for her daughter, and then she asked her, "You have any questions?" So I was the icebreaker.
Yeah.
I was the icebreaker. And so that feels really good.
Sweet. I think that's the lead.
Yeah.
The icebreaker.
Yeah, it's the icebreaker, because for some people it's still kind of weird.
Yeah.
No, I don't overthink it either. When I'm having these conversations, I allow it to flow.
Yeah.
And I don't push a topic if that's not a natural flow in the conversation.
Yes.
I don't push it.
Yeah.
But if she asks any question, I am not backing away from it.
Yep. Yeah.
And I will have to gauge how much to tell her in that period of time.
Yeah, because the mere fact that she's asking the question means that you don't usually ask a question if you're not kind of prepared for some bit of an answer, you know?
Correct.
So the fact that she's
and those are your
question,
teachable moments. Correct. And so for me, instead of looking at this as why just pick me and ask this question for, and why you not go pick up your book, for me, it's like, whoa, teachable moment, opportunity to help give her an answer that will quench this question, that if it comes up in conversation with her friends, she's in a position to say, actually, no. Yeah. If it is, you know, she won't be speaking from an uninformed place.
And that kind of relationship that you have with Naima, where you both have these conversations, don't hold back. Just tell me how much that makes you guys love each other more. Cry if you have to cry. Just
I think these conversations are healing, in my opinion. I think, as simple as they may seem, I think it helps to heal me from things that maybe I didn't even know existed. I think it shows me how much of a gap there is, even if you were a straight A student, even if you were always a person who excelled, you realize that, you know, we are literally products of our society and our culture. And when we have these conversations, I think it allows me to heal, and it also allows me to see how far I have come and how much I have grown as an individual. It makes me even more appreciative and grateful that I didn't stay so hard and hardened on some topics, but that I've allowed myself to learn from other people and other communities. And I think for her, what matters most to me in these conversations is that she will be healed already. And what I mean by that is, your experiences can traumatize you. And how your parents parent and how your culture plays a part can really traumatize you. And then we spend years trying to heal ourselves. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to minimize as much trauma as I can for her through my parenting style. And I know I won't get it perfect. I know I won't be able to cover all bases, but I'm trying to at least be intentional with these conversations.
Beautiful.